All right, guys. So we're back on here, and I believe this is the first 2025 NFL draft talk that we're going to be doing on the Chip Shot Football podcast, right? We are pretty early into this entire thing, right? We're not really going to dive into best fits or anything like that anytime soon, but I thought this was a great starting spot to where we could start introducing the NFL draft. And I think there's no better spot to begin than with the first overall pick and the Tennessee Titans, which hold that pick as well. So we've been, I think we've been led to believe that a 3-win team is going to select a quarterback because of obviously the struggles of Will Levis. That was actually one of the biggest questions going into this year for me was how everything around the quarterback position was getting addressed. Everything looked nice. Everything looked exciting. But, you can't forget about Will Levis, right? Having a new system being implemented this past year, again, after learning a whole other one in his rookie season. And I thought that was obviously going to be a big factor in all of this, right? Because you're really not going to go anywhere without your quarterback. And I think this year we saw the negative side of that, right? The struggles, the frustrations you saw with Brian Callahan as well on the sideline. It definitely did not pan out at all for both sides. So immediately you think once the Titans get announced as the number one pick, right away you think guys like Cam Ward from the University of Miami is the favorite right now to land at the number one spot. Or maybe Shedeur Sanders at one point in time, people thought or still think that he should go number one overall. But I believe for most betting sites, right, Cam Ward is the betting favorite as of right now to be the number one pick. But where this thing started to get a little bit interesting was yesterday. There was a lot of movement with the odds on that number one pick, even starting, if you want to go all the way back to Tuesday, right, to kind of give you guys a better understanding of what was going on and why that was, right? Because according to BetMGM, on Tuesday morning, the odds to be the number one overall pick were very much still in Cam Ward's favor, like I mentioned. But Travis Hunter, right, the Heisman winning player, defensive back, wide receiver, is going to be a great player in the NFL, I believe. He's also up there to be very highly drafted as well. And really nobody has played college football like Travis Hunter has. So maybe in a bunch of other circumstances, Travis Hunter would be the obvious non-question number one pick. But in this year, because the Titans, like we were led to believe, had struggles at the quarterback position, we just thought it's going to be Cam Ward, and number two to the Cleveland Browns is going to be Travis Hunter. But on Tuesday morning, Travis Hunter's odds to go number one overall were at plus 1,500, right? So not the greatest chance. And then you go over to yesterday morning, and Travis Hunter had moved from 1,500 to only plus 625. But Cam Ward was still the favorite at minus 185. But still a pretty decent movement there for Travis Hunter's odds. So people were starting to take notice. And then you just look at a little bit later in the day yesterday, and Travis Hunter then moved from plus 625 to plus 200 yesterday afternoon. And Cam Ward went from minus 185 to minus 115. So both guys moving in opposite directions. And that's a pretty significant jump from one day to the next, one morning to the next afternoon, to go from plus 1,500 if you're Travis Hunter to plus 200. Something obviously happened in that time for there to be such a major change in the odds. And what that was most people, I'm sure by now, have seen or have heard about the Titans' introductory press conference for their new general manager, Mike Borgonzi. Mike Borgonzi will be their new general manager, and he had his intro press conference yesterday. And he was asked a lot about, obviously, the projection and the future of this franchise. And during that introductory press conference, their president of football operations for the Titans, Chad Brinker, said something that got a lot of people's attentions and, can lead you to believe why the odds changed a little bit. And he said on the number one pick and what their plans are going to be with that pick, he said, "We won't pass on a generational talent with the first pick in the NFL draft. They're going to be doing all their homework on all of the prospects, including quarterbacks." And he also mentioned how they have a term for these generational players as blue players, that anytime you have an opportunity to be in the range where you can get one of those blue players, as they call them, that it was going to be extremely hard for them to pass up on that opportunity. And, you know, you can easily connect the two dots, right? You can easily connect how labeling someone as generational, as a game-changing blue player, as they called it. Two positions. Travis Hunter playing two positions and really playing it at a level that not a lot of people have seen in the last part of, I don't know, like 5 years, I guess I would say, as a general statement. You can easily connect the dots there and see how he's probably obviously talking about Travis Hunter. I don't know how else to say it besides, just directly saying it. And they could deny it. They could just say that that's subjective, right? They could look at a quarterback as a generational type of player. It doesn't necessarily have to mean Travis Hunter would be their standpoint. But I don't think too many people are high on these two quarterbacks as much as they are on Travis Hunter, obviously, with what he's been able to do not only this past season but the season before that, and their impact on the University of Colorado as well. He was a major component of that as well. So, I mean, if Tennessee, in their own mindset, thinks that one of these quarterbacks fits the term generational player more so than Travis Hunter, then I think they got more problems coming down the road. So, to me, it seems like an obvious connection, and that's why, obviously, it feels like the odds have shifted so much by their president of football operations, Chad Brinker, saying something like that, because, the struggles of Will Levis and the whole idea around these NFL teams now and just playing good football in the NFL is that you have to have a quarterback, right? Being any sort of sense of relevant, you need to have a good quarterback, especially playing in the AFC South, where the main guy is CJ. And if anybody else could just get their guy and get them to play very good football, I believe they could compete in that division right away. I don't think the Titans are too far from that being a reality. But that's why you need to figure out the quarterback position. But does that necessarily mean you should pass up on Travis Hunter just because you need a quarterback? And that seems to be the question right now. And, their new general manager, Mike Borgonzi, also mentioned his thoughts on the number one pick and sort of addressing the quarterback position as well in this statement that I have up here for you guys to see. He said, "We're keeping an open mind on this, but the quarterback is the most important position in sports, so you have to solidify the quarterback position. We're going to turn over every rock, whether that's free agency, draft, or we have quarterbacks on the roster here. We're going to give him every opportunity to play and to compete." So he seems like he knows the magnitude of this decision. He knows that you're not going to be in any sort of relevant category in terms of your football team or meaningful football without a quarterback. And, the emphasis he's putting on it seems to be aligned with what I'm thinking. But it's obviously going to be a massive decision, and I have no problems with them and what Mike Borgonzi said in his statement, because I believe you'll have, like, my feeling around this is that I feel like you'll have more regret passing on Travis Hunter than you would either of Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, right? I feel like deciding to just go with the quarterback because you need a quarterback in this draft specifically with these guys and, the projections around them and their career trajectories and things like that and their scouting reports and everything that people have on them. I think based on that and how this draft class with quarterbacks isn't necessarily the strongest one we've seen over recent years, definitely not as strong as last year's, I think that would give me more reason to go with a more surefire player like Travis Hunter, who could instantly put on a Tennessee Titans uniform and be the face of that team for as long as he might be there, right? As soon as that pick goes through, no one's really going to feel like, oh, did we make a mistake? Because I feel like his floor is one of the highest floors, maybe the highest floor that you have out of any players in this draft. And I don't think that the Titans would feel any sort of regret because they're going to get a great player regardless. And it might not be the quarterback position like obviously there's a huge emphasis on, but I don't think you just fill it just for the sake of filling it, right? If that makes sense. You don't just take a quarterback and select one just because everyone's saying that you need one. You need to get a quarterback soon. You need one. When are they going to get one? You don't want to be like the Giants in a sense, right? No offense, but drafting a quarterback 6th overall and Daniel Jones where he shouldn't have been drafted just because you need one, you see where they are right now. And that's where, that's only one example of it. But, yeah, I just don't think you just do it based on need unless, this draft class is obviously filled with great prospects, a lot of guys that you can pick from. Then I think it would be a little bit foolish to go away from that, especially because they do have playmakers. But because of the context of this year's draft, and it feels like there's a lot of great players in a lot of different positions, and you could have the possibility of grabbing the most talented, the most versatile out of the entire class, I think this decision kind of makes itself up just by considering all those factors. And if you evaluate them and you don't think it helps as much as Travis, just don't settle for a quarterback just for the sake that you need a quarterback, right? And you're feeling pressure from the outside media or the fans or anything like that, then if you're feeling that and you base your decision off of that, then I think you're not cut out for the job. I think that's why they take so much time in hiring the guys that they do, because they feel that they're the best evaluators of it, right? If not, then they would ask the public who they want to draft, right? So, I don't know. I think especially because if you don't know if you'd get drastically better with a quarterback, you would just take the best player available, and I'm not sure you're going to get that much better with Cam Ward on your team or Shedeur Sanders on your team than you would with Travis, right? So in that case, with a higher floor from Travis Hunter, I think I would go with him just over the other quarterbacks. And, I mean, in free agency, or if you decide to stick with Will Levis, I think you're not going to be moving too much. So I would rather feel more confident and comfortable getting a guy like Travis Hunter on my team, having him change the face and the notoriety with that organization, if at all anything. So those are kind of my thoughts on it, on what to do with the number 1 overall pick. And like I said before briefly, I think with the AFC South, I don't think you need like this super team that you have all the best receivers, the best quarterback in the NFL. I think in this division, with the Colts kind of being in a weird spot, the Jaguars being a mess, and the Texans, making the playoffs but not necessarily looking overpowered, if you could have a player like Travis and maybe you get an overperformance from a free agent signing or something like that with a veteran quarterback, I don't think you're that far off if you're the Titans. And maybe I was a year early on my prediction being so high on the Titans, but it's just because I believe that they have a talented team and they have a lot of good players, and they're just, again, kind of hanging around the rim a little bit. They just need to find their guy. And maybe it's not this year, but I think they would take a big step back if they didn't decide to draft Travis Hunter and go somewhere else. That's just me, though. Still a long ways away from it, but those comments were certainly interesting to kind of hear and see how people reacted to it as well. But we got a couple more segments to get to, more reactions coming up in the next segment on the Associate Press NFL Honors finalists, right? They announced all the finalists for all the awards, and there's a couple interesting ones, a couple guys that were left out, and maybe some guys that are finalists might not be walking away with anything after that award ceremony. So we're going to give our thoughts on it and just talk about everything that we learned from the Associated Press's finalists for the NFL Honors Awards.